Thank you for tuning in to the Patricia Show and on Global Elite Media. So let's get started. So now a lot of you might know that I had a show called The Patricia Show and it wasn't set up correctly. So a lot of those topics that I was using on the other show, I'm going to be transferring them to this show, which this show is called Let's Talk. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to start teaching or giving you information from the beginning of time. Excuse me, about how we were created, your purpose here on earth, why are we reincarnating, and just everything. What I want you to do is research what I tell you. Don't take anything for the gospel to say that it's true. What I'm saying is true. You shouldn't have even did that when it came to the church, but most of us came into the church when we were young from our parents. When you became older, you have to question things for yourself. If the church tell you the sky is falling, you can't just take that the sky is falling. You have to go see if the sky is falling. You know what I'm saying? Just because the things that they teach you in church has been taught for a long, thousands or hundreds of years, it doesn't mean it's true. You have to start researching and checking things out for yourself. Life is really easy if we understand. If we understand who we are, our relationship with God, and just a lot of things. Because I don't even think the majority of people doesn't even understand God. I did a survey once and asking people, did they think God was human, not human, or what did they think God was? You'll be surprised at the answers I got. Some people told me that they thought God was a super being, that he can manifest in physical or he can spiritual. And then some people would say, well, I don't really know what God is, but God doesn't have time to think about me. It's too much that go on in the world. So, it's like people don't understand that concept of God. And so I'm here to I'm going to lay it all out. Now you might think, well, who she thinks she is? Is she just gonna lay everything out? What you saying, lady, might not be true too. This is the thing. I've been prepared for this my entire life. I've been taught from within to be able to bring this, I truly believe, to society. Now, you could believe it or not. I'm not trying to force any belief on anybody, but I say to you, research what I tell you. Now, people say they believe in God, but yet when it comes to really trying to communicate with God to see if something is true or false, you won't do it. You'll go and ask 25 friends or go on Google and research it or whatever you're doing. You never sit down and go within yourself and simply ask the question. I have a friend that she started this church, years ago, but she was saying that, she really had trust in God. She really trusts in God. I knew this was false because people always say that. And when it comes right down to a serious decision they have to make, they don't turn to God. They turn to their friends to help them if they should do it or not. So sure enough, she was supposed to have surgery. She was the doctor was advising her to have surgery on her knee. She told me she really trusted God and all this. But when it really came down to it, she called me and several other of her friends and asking, should she have that surgery done? And I said to her, if you trust in God so much, why are you asking us? Why didn't you sit down and try to connect with God to see if this is something you should do. It's almost like you, out of one breath, people say, I really trust God and believe in God. But out the other breath, you have no trust in God because you'll ask somebody else if something you should do. Why do you do that? Could it possibly be because you don't really understand the concept of God? Or could it be that you don't really think that God would answer you back? Or could it be you just don't have enough faith in him to even ask a question? You just go to your friends and ask. Most of the time, you don't understand the concept of God. Because if you understood the concept of God, you would sit down and ask the question yourself, knowing that all answers are within you. And that is the truth. Whatever you ask is inside of you. The answer is already there. And if you're still enough, you'll hear it. And sometimes we can ask a question and then we're busy, in our day, going about our business or whatever. And we're not still enough to get the answer. So sometimes that higher power has to steal you or put you in a position where you're not so busy so that you can listen to the answer. Listen. There hasn't been anything that I've asked about that I haven't received an answer. I remember when I was younger, I don't remember how old I was, but I had to be in my 20s. And, I had heard a lot about reincarnation, but I didn't believe in reincarnation. And I remember sitting down and focusing my attention within myself and asking God, please show me if this is real, if reincarnation is real. And this guy came over my house a couple of days later. He was my friend's brother who he had really traveled the world. He had a lot of knowledge and stuff. Anyway, he came over about 11 o'clock in the morning. And me and him talked till 11 o'clock that night. That is no lie. We just sat on the porch talking, and he was teaching me about reincarnation. And I knew that the universe had sent him to me. So I went after he left and I said, God, I know you sent this man to me, but I need more verification about reincarnation. So the guy was going to be leaving the country. He was going to Asia or something. And he ended up coming back after I had the second prayer. He came back again. And then it was like any questions I needed to ask him, I can ask him. So I said to God at the end of that conversation that, I needed another verification. So after that, I went to the bookstore about a week later. And I was standing in the bookstore. And this book fell off the shelf. I kid you not. But when I looked up, I couldn't see where the book had fell. It was no empty space there where the book should have been. So I really did. I was like, what the hell is going on? So as I reached down on the floor, and I swear to you people, this is true. I reached down on the floor to pick up the book. My whole body began to vibrate. Just shake. I knew right there it meant for me to get this book because something was in it for me. When I got the book and I took it home and read it, sure enough, the book was teaching about reincarnation. So I knew that this was because I had asked again to give me another, verification about it. And then sure enough, that came. And then I think I went back to ask God for another verification. And then I think I was watching something on TV, the History Channel or something. And then they began to talk about reincarnation again. But this time it made a lot of sense. They were saying we're coming here to become one with God. You can't come on one time and think that you're going to have all your karmas or past lessons, which is the same thing, consumed, and you're going to now reunite with God. You can't do that in one lifetime. So it takes many lifetimes to get to the point where you can align yourself more closer to God. So it was things like that. It was teaching, and it really made sense to me. And at that point was when I believed in reincarnation. The universe had given me showed me 4 different times within a week time span that this is true. Yes, you have to reincarnate. So, that's the part of the life. So, and then I believed it. Now, if I had went and asked my friend about reincarnation, I wouldn't have believed it. But I felt that God had led me to these 4 examples or sent these 4 things to me to tell me that it was true. So I've never prayed or asked for anything or asked, about something and it wasn't made clear to me. My mother and them when I was young were Muslims, American Muslims. And so they didn't teach the same about Jesus as the Christians taught. And I really wanted to know, like, hey, what is the truth about Jesus? So I remember going and even asking God, show me about Jesus. And he did, which I will reveal to you as we go on with the lessons. But he did reveal to me about Jesus. And what he revealed to me is really not what the Muslims teach or what the Christians teach, to be honest. But I will give you that information later on. So there's nothing that I have not went and asked for God to teach me that he didn't. I remember when I was like 12 or 13, or maybe 11, between 11 and 13. I remember reading the Bible and I wanted to be just like King Solomon. And I remember saying to God, please bless me with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And my whole life, I can honestly say he did. I prayed that prayer, that simple prayer, up until I was like 50 years old or 50 in my 50s. And it was at that point that I realized, oh my God, I should have put love in there. If I had known now what I knew then, I would have asked God to fill my world with love. That is very important and the strongest emotion in the universe. So, and he would have done it, you know what I mean? Because it wasn't in the beginning, but I grew that faith like that in God because I realized, well, look, every time I pray, the prayer is always answered. Every time I ask a question, he always gives me the answer. So when you start doing this repetitively, you begin to have faith and trust in that. But a lot of you have never experienced God. I have on so many times, and I will talk about that. A lot of you have never experienced God. So the question is, how can you truly believe in something that you've never experienced? You might say out of your mouth like, yes, I believe God. I have faith in God. I trust God. But do you really? Some people just say it because maybe their family is religious and they think it's, terrible for them to say, no, I don't know anything about God, but what y'all teach me in church, how do I know it's right? No, I don't, I don't have that faith in God. So instead you just lie and say you have faith. But when it comes down to the nitty gritty, you don't, because you'll go ask your friends, should you do certain things, and without going to ask God if you should do it. So this is a spiritual channel. So I'm really digging into the religious, what they've taught us that is not true, how life is not a struggle, how we were created, what you're here for, and what different things mean. And again, you can verify anything that I'm saying. And I'm going to show you how to do that once we get started. So I'm going to try to start like from the beginning of time when God created man. But along the way, I might get off track and go to something else. You know what I mean? So everything might not be in chronological order, but I'm going to try to keep it that way. And then you can always put your comments to ask me any questions, okay? Thank you so much to tuning in to my talk show, Patricia. Let's talk. Have a good weekend.